The title of the message today is Standing on Holy Ground. In the story in Luke 2 of Jesus' birth, in verse 9, part of that verse says, "And the glory of the Lord shone around them." I don't think we give enough attention to that part of the verse. To understand the meaning of those few words, consider this. Heaven and earth are like two rooms of a house, a two-room house, with heaven as God's room and earth as our room. And God passes freely between the room of heaven and the room of earth. He moves freely through the doorway between the two rooms. The glory of the Lord is the bright, shining radiance of God's presence filling heaven, and the angel brings God's presence through the doorway to earth. It's the same glory seen in the burning bush, where God tells Moses he is standing on holy ground. And if you know that story, that's when God calls Moses to lead his people out of Egypt. This glory seen by the shepherds is the same glory that filled the tabernacle in the wilderness. It's the same glory of the Lord Isaiah saw in his vision in the temple when God cleansed him of his sin and called him to be a prophet to Israel. When the glory of the Lord shone, the shepherds, like Moses and Isaiah and others before them, were standing on holy ground. The doorway opens enough for the angel to flood their lives with God's presence. They hear the good news and cannot keep still about it. God's angels previously came to tell both Mary and Joseph about Jesus' coming birth. Now, in Luke 2, it has happened. The Savior is born. Just an ordinary birth from human appearances, because Jesus laid aside his glory to become one of us. But the angel lets these shepherds who stand on holy ground know what has really happened. God has come to Bethlehem. The name Bethlehem means house of bread. It's a fitting place for the one who is the bread of life to come to earth. A Savior is born. Today, I'm not sure we understand the meaning of that in the original context. The Roman Empire was ruled by Augustus Caesar. Augustus had restored peace after years of war and conflict in the Roman provinces. And Augustus was called the empire's savior. He might as well have been called the earth's savior, because like Rome filled much of the known earth for those people there at that time. The shepherds are saying, or the angel is saying to the shepherds, Jesus alone is the earth's Savior. No human being, only Jesus. And it was, of course, soon after this time that the cult of emperor worship emerged. And the early Christians were persecuted for their faith because they would recognize only Jesus as the world's Savior. On earth, wannabe saviors appear all the time. They appeal to our fears. Be afraid. Be very afraid. But the angel introduces God's message by saying, do not be afraid. And later, it was the Apostle John who penned the endearing words in the book of 1 John. Perfect love casts out fear. The shepherds were told what to expect. The baby is lying in a manger. Likely the manger is a trough carved out of stone, used to feed or water the animals. The manger is mentioned 3 times by Luke to get our attention. The stone trough hints at where this story is going. Turning to Isaiah 1:3, the ox knows its owner, and a donkey its master's manger. But Israel does not know. My people do not understand. Do we wonder why a donkey and an ox are included in the nativity scene? It's because where others do not understand, the animals know. Heaven has come to earth in a newborn baby. Yet casual observers would never know that the stone manger stood on holy ground. But the shepherds understand. Isaiah's haunting words, my people do not know or understand, are repeated when Jesus is nailed to the cross. He says, Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. No one could see it then, but that was holy ground where the cross stood on that dark Friday. No one could yet see or understand that Jesus was being crowned as King and Savior of the world. The Savior at birth lay in a stone cradle, and at death he lay in a stone tomb. Both stood on holy ground. And after the darkness of Friday, the women come to the tomb early on Sunday morning, and the glory of the Lord shone around them. They find the tomb empty. They stand on holy ground. The angel says, do not be afraid. You seek Jesus. He is not here. He is risen. Go and tell his disciples the good news of great joy. Darkness could not put out the light. And all heaven's angels are praising God. Today, I pray that in the darkness of this pandemic, in the darkness of sin and deceit, that we may stand on holy ground. I pray our lives may be changed by the glory of the Lord, and we may understand what matters in life, that we may recommit ourselves to the gospel message of great joy for all people, and that we too will go and tell and show others the love of our Savior. Merry Christmas.